Greetings and welcome back to Smartwatch Ticks. First of all, I'd really like to thank those of you who've been buying watches that you've seen here on our channel for using the links that you see in the show notes below the videos to purchase with the good coupon prices that are being offered by many of our supporting vendors, including Everbuying, who wants us to take a look at this 2-button round Android 4.4 watch called the K9. Now, the K9 is very, very similar to the watch line from FINOW, the X1, X3, X5. This would be similar to the X3 in that it has 2 buttons on the side. This one's in gunmetal, and here's the unboxing. You ready for this? Comes in this nice box with the watch, the charging cradle, and a screwdriver. Whoa, it's in there good. Okay. Yeah, the charging cradle, of course, has the 2 cutouts for the buttons. Can you see all that? Yeah. And then the charging pins. And, of course, it plugs into the USB port right there. We have the watch itself, which we'll get to in just a moment. And underneath there, we have a bag of extra screws for opening the back, because you need to open the back in order to put the SIM card in. We have the USB charging cable, standard with all of these. And then we have the elaborate user's manual, which is both in Chinese and, we hope, in English. Here it is. Wow, really, really tiny print. I'll do my best to zoom in, and hopefully you guys can read it. We always like to do this to take a kind of a parade of the user's manual. That way you get a look at it. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to get a PDF version, and when I do, I put that in the show notes as well. But most of the times, they're just these little booklets that come with it that give you an overview. If you're familiar with these round Android 4.4 style watches, this works very, very similar, if not identical, to all of those. And so you're probably familiar with the operation and the layout and the apps. But let's find out. Let's turn it on, take a look, see what it'll do. Okay, first of all, let's prep it. It's a stocky, nice feeling watch, good, solid silicone band. Now, the silicone band is important because if you've noticed before, looking at the other models, the single button X1, for example, it uses a leather band. Personally, I like these silicone bands better. They've got more stretch to them. So when you put them in on your wrist, if you're kind of between holes and they don't quite fit exactly the right one, the stretchable band lets you take the next higher one, make it a little tight on your arm, but it's not uncomfortable. To prep the watch, we take off a cover like this. And as I'm discovering on a lot of these watches, there's a secondary one here now. Let me move that out of the way. I don't know if you can really see kind of the reflections in it there, and it's got a little pull tab. Sometimes they don't have that pull tab, and you totally miss the fact that there's got another covering, and there you go. Okay, so now we're looking at, we hope, the glass itself. It's even possible that there's a screen protector on there that could come off if necessary, but as long as it's clean like that, we don't need to do that. It looks like we've got a plastic covering over the stainless steel back as well. Yeah, we do. Look at that. You want to take that off, I guess. I guess you could leave it on as a protector between your skin oil and the watch itself. But I've already taken it off, so there we go. There's the speakers on this one. They're recessed and, whoa, I'm sorry, I'm off the screen. They're recessed and kind of small. Some of the other watches, it's a bigger cutout, so I'll have to check sometime the sound on this. One of the things that I like about the 2-button watch is this tapered effect. It's got a nice, soft, smooth, everything roundish kind of a feel to it. With the recessed 2 buttons, it's really pleasant. Feels good on the arm. At least that's true of the X3 that I've experienced. This is the K9 now, and being that it's very, very similar, running slightly different software probably, because it's not a FINOW product directly, it could be very comparable. You got the diodes. Oh, I guess I should show you booting up. It was just going through its logo. The diodes on the back for doing the heart rate monitoring. There's no sound coming out of it right now, but we may have the sound turned down. Sometimes there's a boot up sound. The charging connectors are over there. It just says smartwatch as it's booting up. You got the microphone hole on the side. It's a little harder to see in this gunmetal black, but it's also available in silver as well. So let's run through the paces here. We've got the watch face first, and you can see it's got its little second hand thing going around, and I guess that's the minute hand equivalent down there. We slide over here, and oh, it says it's got a SIM card in it. They usually don't ship with the SIM card. Oh, no SIM card detected. Okay. This is the notifications area. There's the watch. You go to the right, there's the music player. Go to the right again, and there's your sports stuff, your heart rate and pedometer. And you go to the right again, and there's weather. Now, again, as we go through this and we do what we call a first look, we don't have it on the internet. It's not connected, so we're not going to get any of the readouts or information. Because of the lighting in here being so bright, I'm going to try to press this. We may as well go through this. When you press it to turn it off, you have the option of having sound or silence right there. You have the option of turning on or off what they call the conspire screen, which is where when you tilt it, it'll turn on and show you the time for a few seconds. That's the power off, and this is a power savings mode, which I'm going to turn off. And I'm going to lower the brightness down to 1, makes it a little better for our video. Okay, and we tap that again, and we're back. We're back to the watch face. So notifications, music, health, and weather. Let's go into the health and try the heart rate monitor. It says it's measuring already, and the green diode is flashing, so I'm going to put my finger on it and start it over and let it measure. See what my pulse comes out to be. This is pretty much standard on all of these round Android 4.4 watches, and one of these days we'll actually try and do a comparison of readouts. They tend to start out, I've noticed, at least for me, they start out a little high, and then they kind of iterate down until they get close to what your actual heart rate is. Since you can't actually use the number in any of the apps, it will show up in some of the watch faces, but you can't really export it to any of the apps. It just shows you the number. My suggestion is run it for a few seconds, a half a minute, get a feel for the average of what it's saying that your heart rate is, and then use that as the number. Right now, I've been active a little bit before starting this, and of course I'm talking a lot, so maybe I'd be in the mid-80s. I hope not. Especially if you saw the video on my McDonald's Happy Meals. 2 of them I had to eat. Yeah, no wonder my heart rate's high. Anyway, that's your BPMs, and then you got your pedometer, where you can do your interval work and time your steps. And you can set your weight and height and gender and all that stuff, and keep a log of your pedometer daily tracking rates. And it's kind of cool because it just does that automatically for you. So you just have it on. Once you got your data set, you can keep track of your basic walking all the time, unless you go into the interval timed version, in which case it just tracks those steps during that interval. Pretty cool. All right. Where are we? We did the health and everything. And of course, weather, we're not connected, so we're not going to get any of that. Let's do the watch faces. Want to walk through the watch faces? This is the first one it comes with. We press and hold, and it's got several stock watch faces installed. And the trick is you just tap it, and it comes right back up again. It's really a dim one, but it's great for like at night. And instead of going and pressing and sliding and bringing them back up one by one, I'm going to just kind of walk us through them so you get a feel for them. If you've seen any of our other videos, you'll recognize that these are the standard stock faces that come with almost all of these Android 4.4 watches. This is a nice one because it shows some of the quality of the detail of this watch. Nice, huh? The little bitty numbers are easily readable. Yeah, if you press and hold incorrectly, you'll dump into the apps. So we have more. Now, one of the features of many of these watches is the ability to install custom-made watch faces. And I have already unboxed, charged up, and loaded a small file called a clock skin folder that has one watch face that's a custom designed watch face. It's our new mascot, William, for the smartwatch community. And here it is. And when I tap on it, it's there. Now, because this is showing up, it means that the potential of adding hundreds and hundreds of custom watch faces exists for this K9 watch. And that's good to know. So if you're into watch faces, this type 2-button, really nice smartwatch is one to consider, because you will have the ability to install custom watch faces. And then there's a whole bunch of other digital and analog kind that are included as well. So you don't need to download any of these. They're already there, and they're already available for you. So there's a large selection of watch faces. That's one of my favorites because I get a lot of data on that. I get my steps. There's my heart rate. It gave me 84 as the final one that decided on. Battery's at a full 100%. And on. Lots of clock skins, we call them. Clock skins is the code that creates watch faces. And then at the very end, if we ever get there, you have the ability to add watch faces in another unique way, and that's by hitting a little plus sign. When you tap the plus sign and you're connected to the internet, you'll link to a server right here, and it will show you thumbnails of other available watch faces, and all you got to do is touch it and download it and say install it, and it'll suddenly show up along with all the others here with available clock skin for you, or watch face. Well, I guess I got to bail out of it this way. Okay. All right, we'll just leave that one on. So we've done all this stuff, the notifications and everything that you see at that level. And then to get into the apps, you just simply tap it. These are all of the installed apps that come with this watch. It's basically phone and messages and contacts. That's all related to the SIM card that you put inside, not tethered information that comes from your phone. This is not really made for tethering to your phone. It's made to be a standalone unit where you put a SIM card in the back, okay? Your settings will come back to. There's health, which is the overall category we saw that you can access just by sliding anyway. Music player, which is also available. Your basic alarms that you can tie into and set. And again, recurring ones or individual ones. The weather is the same as the weather app that we saw when we went to the side. And you have a built-in sound recorder, which we may as well test. Hello, I am a K9 2-button Android 4.4 smartwatch. Glad to meet you. Recording paused. I could continue if I want to by just tapping it. So a great way to take notes to yourself, and you could pause between sentences. I'm recording more, added to this same recording. And when you're done, you just say done and say save. And then you can tap for the recording list and you can play it back. I can barely hear it. I'm sure you're not hearing it at all. Maybe a function of the sound being down. Oh, well, there you go. Looks like the volume was way low. Let's try this again. There we go. There, we had... I'm recording more, added to this same recording. Yeah, there's that second sentence. So I had the volume down, and you can change it from the screen all the way up to 15 and hear it pretty good. You can export these files, I'm sure, and then you can use them offline however you would like. Watch Helper is the little area where you set up the watch to do the tethering that you can do to your phone, which is basically receiving notifications and text messages and stuff. You can't reply to them. You're not going to be able to make phone calls from this watch and talk to the watch unless you put a SIM card in. It just doesn't work doing it to the through your phone. The App Store is an online store that comes with other apps that have been provided, not Google now. This is not the Google Play Store. This is just a different kind of an app store. And there's some okay apps in there that you can explore. Barometer is tied to the weather app. You need to be online. It's not really an installed barometer. It gets its barometric data from the weather. The browser is your basic browser. There's some other ones we would recommend you install, like Apis browser, for example, that are a little bit better, but this is the installed default browser. Calendar is pretty basic. It just shows you a screen that shows you the calendars and the dates, but you can't go in and edit them or add any information to them. It's not like Google Calendar, for example. Downloads just shows you any of the downloads that you have if you've downloaded files, and we have no items. You know what? I keep pressing this top button because I'm familiar with that, but let's try the bottom button next time because that should just be our back button. File Manager shows you what we have on board. We have available about 2 gigabytes of memory out of the 4 gigabytes that comes on the watch. It's actually a healthy amount for limited stuff that you might be doing on a watch. It's not an 8 gigabyte machine by any means, but it is functional, and it's identical to all the ones you see, the D5, the X1, the X3, all of those same basic memory capacity. So nothing new there. To get into it, you just tap it again, and then it shows you your various folders. And like I said, I have now a clock skin. It has to be spelled just like this. Clock skin folder with a folder called William. And this is all the bits and pieces that make up that watch face that we had loaded up. So I'm going to hit the back button once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. See how you can go back layer by layer with this button here. Well, this one just takes you all the way home. That's the Google Play Store. That's where you'll go to download all your basic Google apps. Voice search is a Google voice search thing. And when you go into recent apps, you get all the apps that you've been looking at. You can tap on them to bring them up. You can close them one by one, or you can hit close all. And you're out of there. Okay? And we're back to the watch faces. So we pretty much covered everything. We've done the heart rate and the steps, although the steps aren't monitoring right now. If I turn it off, I turn it over, and I bring it up. It should light the screen up, give you the time, and then turn itself off shortly after that. System settings, where we can change the time that the screen will actually stay on, and many other things, are located here. When you go into the settings, you can set the clock settings. This is choosing the default clock, which is the same as pressing and holding and sliding the watch faces around. You can make a wallpaper clock, which is pretty limited, but if you have a special picture you'd like as a background, you can set something like that up. You have your date and time capability here to automatically set the date from a server, from the internet. That's usually what people have turned on, and it works well. Or you can set all of the stuff manually. You can have 24 or 12-hour time, and you can choose your format for date for European or American, whatever you'd like. And we have sound settings, and we have our volumes. And this is where we were maybe running into that problem with the volume being too low. Okay, I got them all the way up. And you can change your ringtones here, and you have a few, not a whole lot, but a few that you can pick. Relatively loud. Okay. Vibrate. Default notification sounds. Again, you have some, but not a whole lot. And these are short little sounds for when you have notifications coming in, that kind of stuff. All right. That's our sounds. Our display is where we have the brightness level control, that I can make it like super bright or something that will work for us. I don't know if you're noticing, but we do have a white background here, and you can see kind of at the top that there's a little bit of graying and some light changing going on. I'm seeing that on all the watches. It's not a defect as far as I can tell. I mean, you could call it a defect because it's not pure uniform gray, but it does seem to be something about how the circuit board, I guess, attaches there. And I do notice on a plain white or gray, light gray background like this that you might see some off color, off lightedness to it. I don't think it's enough to really worry about, but it's on all these watches, so it's just inherent with them. Sleep time is where I've set it to 30 minutes, but you can go as low as 15 seconds in all these different increments. And that's it for display. Connectivity for setting up your Bluetooth. If you have a SIM card in it, your mobile networks, you got Wi-Fi, airplane mode, and you can set up a Wi-Fi hotspot, and these other things. Again, a lot of this has been covered in other videos. This is similar. So if you're curious, watch any of the videos on the D5 or the X1 or the X3, and you're in the same format watch. In fact, there's a lot of videos on the D5 that would apply directly here. So if you get this K9 watch, if you like this quality and the style and the price, then check out those videos, and you can do the same things you see there on here. We have power savings mode, open, flip, bright screen. That's the same thing as turning the arm that you saw in that special icon that we can turn on and off. Language and inputs is where you would change your keyboard if you install a separate keyboard, and also change your voice and do all the things that you do in language and inputs. It's basic Android. Resetting the equipment resets the whole thing. You can erase all of the data and all your music, photos, and of course completely reset the watch. Device management is where you get into SIM card management, message, call, battery. On the battery you get a readout, and you can show battery percentage, and it shows you that the Android system and launcher have been used the most, just like on your Android phone pretty much. Security, the best you can do is put in a lock code. You want to make sure unknown sources is checked if you're going to load in apps in other places than the Google Play Store. You can see I'm swiping down from the top, which is the same as hitting the side button. I just try not to use the buttons more than I need to, just to save wear and tear, and I'm used to that habit. You can uninstall applications, which we don't have any installed right now. If you want a better look at all your system capabilities when you're on the internet and you are logged into your Google Play Store, download the app called Settings Search and use it instead of this uninstall. You can definitely clear out the cache and clear out the data and do all that before you uninstall an app, so that if there's any lingering stuff, it's removed. And finally, about the device, lets you do a wireless update if there are any updates to it. You can go into developer options. I don't recommend this very often. The only thing I would suggest you might do is to stay awake, which will keep the screen on when it's on the charger. Just if you like to have the time on at night, for example. But you don't need things like a lot of people say to connect it to the computer. You have to turn on USB debugging. That's actually backwards for the watches. If you turn that off, you might mess yourself up and not be able to get on. So don't do that. In fact, most of the time, I just suggest keeping it off altogether. Status of your phone number and IMEI and all that stuff. It is known as the X3. This model is called the K9. It may be made by FINOW and third-partied over to whoever's making the K9. It's hard to tell about these watches. They are so many of them out there that have different names from different companies, but are basically the same watch. But we know we have a 2-button X3 equivalent in a K9. It's running Android 4.42. That's the baseband information, January 15th of this year, 2016. It's kernel version from May 30th. So it's relatively up to date in terms of time frame, this being August. The build number and the custom build number version 2016, May 30th, okay? That's the stuff you can use to determine when you get your watch if yours is newer or older, or if you need to do a firmware update, you can do that and see that model number change because that's tied to the firmware. And if you do need to flash firmware to this watch, Once you get it, we do have instructions on that on our YouTube channel, Smartwatch Ticks. Just look for the X3 video, or even the X1, or the D5. All of them, the flashing would be the same. You just use a specific firmware for this particular watch, and you'd be in business. All right, that is a very quick run through of the X9 watch, which comes to us from Everbuying. And in terms of specs, it looks like this. It's a, again, Android 4.4 3G watch, meaning that you can get the 3G connectivity by inserting a SIM card as long as it's running on the proper bands. That's the 850 and 2100 megahertz bands. It does standard GSM for phone calling and text and stuff on all of these bands, and you just need to check with your country to find out if these bands are supported. It is GSM network, so in the US it would be AT&T or T-Mobile if any. In other parts of the world, you just have to check GSM network. It's not the other ones like Verizon, Sprint in the US. Yet you're kind of restricted to the GSM networks. It's using the MTK6572 dual core 1.0 gigahertz processor, which gives it decent speed. It's not a screaming fast watch, but I'm telling you, with all the new Android 5.1 round fancy watches coming out at a higher price, keep an eye out on the K9 as a possible buying opportunity. Keep an eye below this video for coupon sale pricing. We should have not only a link to the Everbuying site for this watch, but hopefully a discount coupon you can apply as well. And when you buy through our site, you help support us in getting in new watches like this to review over time as they continue to come out, and they will. So thanks for watching Smartwatch Ticks, and we will see you back here, I'm sure, with another review soon.